Welcome to drivenmavens.com. My name is Arvin, and today we're going to talk about how to take an existing digital painting and making it a little bit more visually interesting. So let's go. Alright, so the image that we have in front of us here is a digital painting that I did a little while ago. It is a Corvette, and as you can see, first of all, before I even get into modifying and changing this, let's just talk about what we have here. As far as the composition goes, okay. So I'm going to just lighten this up. I am currently, what the software that I'm using right now to create all my digital paintings is Photoshop. There are other softwares out there like Painter, Corel's Painter, and there are some other software, free software that's out there also that you can use to create some of these digital paintings. Photoshop is really basically the mainstream. You don't have to use it, but I'm just kind of letting you know that that's what I've been using here. Okay, so I reduced the opacity. Opacity is now what, 70%. And what I want to talk about is the placement of my images, first of all. So you can see that the canvas right now has been gridded out to 3 equal sections from the horizontal and vertical portions of it. Okay, so when you look at my Corvette, when you look at this Corvette, let's just kind of understand the placement. Oops. So looking at this placement with respect to the canvas and where the canvas is located, or the size of the canvas. I must have a snap here going on. I might have to turn that off. Yep. Get rid of that. There we go. Makes it easier. Alright, so I'm going to block this thing in real quick, because I want you to see where I've placed this. So, the area of concentration is the Corvette and the light that emanates from the headlights, the intensity of the lights. It draws your attention to the areas of the highest contrast, which ends up being the headlight, the sun right here, and then the headlights from the Ferrari at the rear. Now, when you look at this is slightly off center, which is good. Anytime you have something a little bit off center, it makes it a little bit more visually interesting instead of having something completely centric. So I'm going to show you that this distance between the Corvette and the edge of the page, a little bit smaller here, but this is then balanced out by the Ferrari. So basically now that distance is almost the same as this. It's a little bit balanced. It doesn't have to be exact. And then here is your border. So you see that the Corvette is really taking the most of the page, right? And then surrounding that, you've also got some some interesting details here with the sky tones and the color of the sky, the contrast of the sky to the sun here, the intensity of the sun. Those are all elements. So you have basically this first element, primary, and you have the second element right here, which is your other Ferrari, and then you have 3, which is the sun, and then the clouds surrounding the sun. And then of course now you got the road that's slanted. So this is all good. I mean, this is not that bad. Now how can we change that and make it a little bit different? Let's go back to the opacity setting. Now what I want to do here is to maybe even put some more concentration on the Corvette and the Ferrari, and not so much on the background, and to create more of a horizontal type effect, where, to do that is basically to kind of crop the image and change the image size. Now when I do these digital paintings, sometimes I have to work with a given size that's going to be printed out by the vendor. So, you're basically, working along the constraints. But sometimes, if you want to be able to create an image and then cut the image yourself, or once you have it printed, you can cut that image yourself. That's somewhat of an awkward, very wide format. You can have that thing cut and then mount it onto a separate board or something that's different, something that's not really available, which is kind of unique on its own. So let's start off here. Go back here. So one of the things that we can do to play with the composition is to start to explore the idea of maybe tilting your images a little bit, and that adds another dynamic effect. So what you see right here is now I've tilted this, maybe 20 degrees or so, whatever it is, and now you see that there's a little bit more motion, there's a little bit more movement. So now the Corvette is kind of moving up, or it's going upward. Now when I come back in with my crop tool, I am going to grab just that portion of the sun, and then I am going to crop the image. Let's see, how does that look? So now I'm looking at the space. Whoops. Okay, let's try that. That could work here. Let's give that a shot. Okay. Now I'm going to get rid of these grid lines here. So we can see what we're doing. Alright, this is what we got. So, already you got something that's, somewhat different. I'm going to go back now to my brush tool. And I'm going to actually go in and paint in the rest of it here. And then I'll show you what we're going to end up doing with this. I'll block this thing in. I'm not trying to be exact here. I just want to give you just a quick example of what I'm trying to do. Looks like I made a mistake here somewhere along the road. Don't know where that happened. Now, with this already, you're seeing something that's a little bit different than what I had before. We're going to go in and then start to create a little higher contrast area by going from a cooler color to the warmer colors. So I'm going to start to block in this area in the front, taking this cool color, and I'm going to create this basically this silhouette around it, around the car. I start to gradate out the purplish hue. So already, I'm not gonna try to make this too perfect or anything. There we go. Alright, so already from what you see here, make this a little bit darker here in the front. And I'm going to carry some of this thing out to here. We don't want to make it you don't want to make it the same color. You want to add a little bit of different shades and so forth, even within your color. That adds a little bit more depth instead of just having a flat color all the way around. Okay? Alright. So what's been done here? From what you can see here, I've in a short amount of time basically taken the image and I've cropped it, I've rotated it, and then I've added some darker colors here to accentuate the profile of the car. and now you got a little bit more movement. It's still now the position of the car is still relatively the same, but when you look at it, it looks a little bit more forward. There's still plenty of space from the top of the page to the top of the canvas now to the top of the car. So when we look at this position, they're not too close to the edge. There's a little bit of breathing room, because you know this car is now going in a certain direction, and you can play with this. I'm not saying that this is totally correct, but what you can do is that it allows you to look at experimenting with different ways of positioning your subject matter. So this can also be shifted. If I wanted to, maybe I could have shifted this thing back. Instead of bringing this forward. But I wanted that movement to the front to show that the car was coming to the front. Which you don't have to do. You can always do it this way. Coming through here, and then I could block these colors back in. It's another method. If I did this, let's see what that looks like. Okay, that should about do it. I don't have to go into too much detail here. So now this gives another different look to it. Now it's actually coming from the back, and then this is now moving forward, climbing up the hill. Again, another different feel. I mean, I would say that I would encourage anybody who is trying to understand more about art and understand how you can create more visually compelling images is to really experiment like this. You know, once you're actually finished with something, you can take it, you can manipulate it. It's very easy to do that in Photoshop or even some other video or photo editing software, and to explore those different ideas and start to look back at history. Understand, you know, how are the great artists from the past in the 16th and 17th century, how are they actually composing their paintings, and start to break it down and understand why. You know, why does this look good? Why does this look compelling? Why are my eyes drawn to the subject, and what are the colors that they're using? So in any case, that is this is it for this episode, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you back here again on drivenmavens.com.